I taped my mouth shut for a month, and no, it wasn't a sex thing. It was actually for self-improvement. No, it was not for mewing. We'll break that shit down later. It was actually for sleep quality, surprisingly enough. This improved sleep quality was the goal and was achieved with far better results than was actually anticipated, and there were much better effects produced from this experiment than I could ever dream of, despite the cost it actually took to get to that point. But why even do this sadistic experiment in the first place? Just take a melatonin or something like a normal person. And you would be right. That would work, and it has. But the issue isn't so much getting to sleep as it is staying asleep. There's been a silent killer lurking in the bodybuilding community as of late, and it just keeps getting stronger and more prevalent. The silent killer strikes in the dead of night, often with no warning. And even if you are lucky enough to catch it on before it's too late, it often has detrimental effects on your physical recovery and mental performance/health. This killer's name... Sleep apnea? No, dude, come on. Only old fat people get that. And even still, just, like, get a fucking sleep app. Okay, yeah, old fat people get this all the time, but it's not just being old and fat that causes this. The actual cause of sleep apnea is having way too much weight on your neck, which causes poor breathing habits. And you know what other people fall in the category of having a lot of weight on their neck? Bodybuilders. Like, look at that guy's fucking neck! That thing weighs more than me! I myself am not only an avid resistance training enthusiast, and I'm already at a high risk of having sleep apnea due to my genetics and my parents. They both have it, and so did their parents. Not to even mention the fact that my sleep quality is already shit. Anyway, without further ado, let's move on to day 1 of the experiment. Oh my god, he's dead. Okay, so subject 1 was not a great responder. The first experiment was really fucking rough, and I did not make it through the whole month. I was on a sleep medication that would cause my blood pressure to drop too low and wouldn't allow me to get into rhythms during the night. I failed to consider this before starting the experiment, got off of the medication because, well, I couldn't fucking sleep, and subsequently started from square one. But okay, now that we know it was a separate medication and not me trying to learn Haman, let's take this out and try it again. And he's fucking dead too. Okay, look, experiment 2 is going really well. I actually had begun to notice a lot of improvement in sleep quality. But then on day 11, I got the sniffles really bad, so I put the experiment on hold because, well, I couldn't breathe with the tape on my mouth. And I figured I'd try again the next day, add an extra day to the end of the experiment, and we'd be fine. Then I woke up on day 12 with strep and COVID. So the experiment was immediately ceased, and I was out of commission for 2 weeks. All right, subject 3, it's your turn. Just a little bit of this and yep, right. Okay, buddy. Right, yeah. See. Now that wasn't too bad, right? No complications this time. How'd you sleep, buddy? Yeah. You feel good? That's awesome. You feel energized? Great. Okay, that's a good to know. Just as I thought. Okay, this is great. 3rd time's a charm, I guess, because the 3rd time went flawlessly. No silly external variable ruining our fun, and more importantly, some really interesting anecdotal data to take a look at. I actually went for 31 days on this run, mostly because I forgot on one night and wanted to overcompensate as the best I could, but that being said, let's look at the results. This was not only some of the fastest nights I got to sleep, but some of the deepest sleep I had gotten. I noticed this led to better energy throughout the day, but the area that was most impacted was the 90 minutes before actually waking up. I typically spend these minutes in a daze trying not to pass back out, and on the days when there's no immediate incentive to get off my ass, there's a very high likelihood I'm going the fuck back to sleep. I believe there are 2 factors that led to this. The first of which was to do with my tongue positioning and its effect not just on the airflow from my nose to throat, but more so to do with the fact that instead of drooling with my tongue and neck muscles on the back of my throat, I was instead forced to have a good tongue posture in order to breathe, and this led to a more open throat passageway. The second and more surprising aspect was the actual tempo and speed of my breathing. Since my mouth was closed and I was relying solely on nasal breathing, my air intake was far slower and more deliberate than my typical slack-jawed habits would yield. Instead, this slow and deliberate breathing led to me almost being forced to meditate whether I wanted to or not. This in turn led to a slower heart rate and a more relaxed state that I would not typically exude during my previous nighttime routine. But this breathing state was far more beneficial after I fell asleep, and I believe this is what kept the sleep apnea demon at bay. As the tape didn't just fall off my mouth the second I went to sleep, I mean sometimes it would fall off way later in the night, but that's besides the point. I kept this breathing pattern position throughout most of the night, so instead of being yanked out of deep sleep or REM, and then forced into a sympathetic state due to choking on myself, pause, I managed to actually experience more deep sleep for longer. And this was evident in my elevated mood, energy levels, alertness, and more nightly erections and quality. I didn't once this whole month wake up without noticing high quality morning wood, and even the time I woke up in the middle of the night to take a piss, I was harder than a rock. This is really notable as nightly erections are a vital sign of quality sleep. The more erections and higher quality, typically 5 or more with about an 85% erection quality or better for about 25 to 35 minutes indicates a night of high quality sleep for males and similar for women, I found out. This is a phenomenon I want to go on a future video about penis enhancement and overall sexual health, as there's a surprising amount of overlap. But for now, just recognize that I'll be lumping both nocturnal penile tumescence and nocturnal clitoral tumescence under the same guise of nocturnal erections for the sake of simplicity. As all we are concerned about with today is that nocturnal erections indicate deep sleep, as they're not only present in REM sleep, arguably the most important stage of sleep, as this is where memory formation, learning, and emotional processing occurs. And an equally important process is non-REM deep sleep, which is when your brain shrinks by about 20% and the beta amyloid cleans out of your brain through the lymphatic system. The shrinking of the brain allows for the cerebral spinal fluid to flow through your brain via astrocytes, the cells that allow for this flow, and then to clear waste products such as these beta amyloids. Essentially, this is almost like your brain pooping, and the spinal fluid acting like a figurative changing of the diapers. Your brain will poop out these beta amyloids throughout the day, and while in deep sleep, the lymphatic system comes through and changes your brain's diaper, prepping it for the next day. If you don't enter this deep sleep for long enough, if at all, then this diaper change won't occur. And the slow accrual of these beta amyloids will occur over time, and the process gets exponentially harder and less efficient, and is theorized to play a major process in causing Alzheimer's and dementia. Aside from longevity, in the short term this also means less efficient neural processes such as speed, memory formation, and synapse formation. I want to clarify, this is a gross oversimplification of one responsibility of your lymphatic system, albeit an important one. This negative feedback loop is all expedited by our special friend mentioned earlier, sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is characterized by the repeated stop and restart of breathing due to the blocked airway during sleep. With 1 in 15 Americans now knowingly suffering from sleep apnea, it is an ever-growing issue and it's not going anywhere. This literal boogeyman is striking in the dead of night and ripping people out of and away from getting over this ever so crucial deep sleep. If you suffer from snoring, waking up multiple times in the night, migraines, brain fog, poor muscle recovery, and being tired all the time, then you could be at risk of sleep apnea. This is not a comprehensive list, but if you exhibit even a few of these, perhaps consider taking a look at your overall sleep quality. And with me exhibiting all of these and more, having tried melatonin, prescription sleep pills, I sought for a way to combat this demon before it took me as it had those before me. Ergo, this BDSM-esque method, or Haman as I prefer to call it, to try and combat this demon. And this experiment was incredibly fruitful. Though I fortunately don't have sleep apnea yet, I am at risk due to family history and lifestyle, with the basic idea revolving around forcing a better breathing passageway through the nostrils, thus forcing my chin forward and not allowing the front neck muscles to sink back as far, thus preventing the sleep apnea. And not to mention the added benefit of the meditative properties produced from this practice. Yes, and now for the part you've all been typing in the comments about, the fan favorite, mewing. For those fortunate enough not to know yet, this is a look-maxing technique popularized by the black-pilled community and has exploded in popularity in recent years, with a bunch of scientific literature to support its benefits. Now, is it going to improve breathing and improve facial silhouette? Yes. Now, is it going to turn you into Chico Lukowski? No! I have a video coming out shortly regarding this community, as there are some beneficial aspects regarding quality of life. However, there are some interesting methods that they propose in sake of vanity. Anyways, that's for the future video. This all being said, I highly recommend people take a look at trying this. Now, you don't have to be nearly as barbaric as I was and use medical tape. They have mouth tape specifically designed for this practice now, that hopefully won't rip the hair out of your face. I just use medical tape because it's like $3 at Walgreens. I mean, it's prone to falling off after about 6 or 7 hours, but it's the best value. You get about 2 months of tape for like $3 or $4, and it gets the job done. Anywho, if you enjoyed this video, I have a video here about neuroplasticity that goes more in depth on the actual mechanisms involved with these changes in the brain, and will certainly give you more in-depth explanation than just brain poop. Thank you so much for watching, see you next time, and have a great one.